Tylonator, and so in this video, well, yeah, I wanted to do a video of me touring my entire Redstone testing world, and, yeah, there's some crazy things in here. So, yeah, we're gonna tour this world, and we are going to discover some shenanigans that have been built in it. Most of my doors don't use any modded stuff. I tried to keep it as vanilla as I possibly could. The only things that you might see dotted around are, at least that I majorly use, are redstone links from the create mod. Redstone links are basically just wireless redstone. You can just set up 2 channels and then they can link to something else, which means that you have wireless redstone, which is just really useful for making inputs. This is the first thing I made in this world. It was a 4x4 vault door. It's an incredibly simple design. It's basically just a kind of small 4x4 vault door that I made. It's free wide. It is a vault door, so it is on both sides. It's very simple. When you give it an input, basically what it does. Also, if you're wondering, this is how I remotely activated my doors in the showcases, if you're wondering. Yeah, you can see it's just a double piston extender, it's not that complicated. None of my doors have any type of triple piston extender set up at all. I can't do triple piston extenders, they're just way too complicated for me right now. So that is why there's no 5x5. That is the one door that I'll probably never be able to make because it uses triple piston extenders. So yeah, all of my doors are double piston extenders and like block storage. And that's like it. Because I don't know how to do basically anything else yet. So yeah. 8,300. Yeah, I'll tell you why. All of my future doors use note block inputs. Anyways, yeah. It's a very simple door. Here's the other circuitry. This is the only part I found to be any difficult at all, trying to wire up these bottom pistons, but I discovered I could just use redstone blocks right here, so that was very easy. And that also dealt with these side pistons. And they're out of sync. Oh, that's annoying. Oh, that's so annoying. Why are they out of sync? Yeah. And then it just uses this very simple, you know, double piston extender. The cool thing about this, though, is that if we grab this again... So, the reason I made this a 4x4 is so that a flying machine can move through it. And then the flying machine activates the door. I like this concept, having a flying machine go through a door that it gets activated from the flying machine. I think that's a really good idea for a base entrance. Because it's incredibly simple, you know. And you can see the door is big enough so you can fit entirely in. And it closes. And then you reach your destination. So this could be a way of making a secure entrance with a flying machine, and that flying machine is the only thing that can activate your door. You'll see me do this a lot, where I have a door just as its circuitry, and also in more of like context, where I have it in more of a setup I would actually have. So, yeah. This I recently kind of decorated a little more. This is a flush trapdoor. It's just a very basic design right here with the thingy. It's very basic. The only complicated thing about this slightly is the input, which is a T flip-flop. So T flip-flops can be made incredibly simply with a note block. Actually, I have one right here. With a note block, an observer, a sticky piston, and a redstone block, and then your line you want to power. You just power the note block. And there you go. I also don't really use slime and honey in my doors. I don't really like slime and honey. I just prefer normal piston movement. Slime and honey's cool, but I just prefer normal pistons. So this is... So for that hallway design, I wanted to design a 3x4 piston door. 3x4s are going to probably be the most common type of door I'm going to be engineering because, well, my base is 3x4 hallways, so 3x4 piston doors just makes sense. Because I don't have 3x3 rooms, and 4x4 rooms are stupid. Because I like having the center block right here for my walkways, but also 3 block tall... Oopsies. 3 block tall ceilings are just feel a little too short for me. I know 2 block is the absolute minimum, but 3 is like preferred. But I prefer 4 because I feel like this is way nicer. So 3x4. This is literally the same door as the this is literally, it is the exact same door as the 4x4 all the way over there. It is the exact same door. It is just 1/2 now. I think this is the very early steps in making a 3x3 piston door, which we'll see later. I have like a whole saga with my 3x3s, so we'll get to that later. So I really wanted to make a 1 wide 3x3 because, I don't know, I think it's fun. 1 wide doors are nice because you can see the entire circuitry from just one side, which is nice for screenshotting. The only problem is that they're a little more difficult to wire since you're restricted to only 1 wide. But this is the first 3x3 I made, and you know what? I wonder something. I'm surprised this door doesn't have a single note block in it. No, I can't. It breaks. Okay, lesson learned. So this has to be powered with a lever. So yeah, this is V1 of the 3x3. You can see that it uses weird piston. I don't know why I did this. This is really dumb. I could have just used a note block. Whatever. These circuits right here, where there's a block that pushes out of the way, that pulls a block out of the way and pushes it into an observer. This is a very, jeez, this is a very common way I powered stuff, but if I were to power this now, I would just use a redstone line, because it's going to be 1-ticked anyways. So, yeah. And it needs the 1-tick because these spit out their blocks to walk. Except this frickin' cyan line. I hated this cyan line so much. Because it's almost 1 wide, and then you just have this 2 wide section right at the bottom. With 2 repeaters. 2 repeaters! I hated this bottom layer though. So here is 3x3 piston door V2. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the exact same speed. The entire door is the exact same thing. Except the cyan line is now only 1 block, and that orange line from before is now continued on the other side. And look at this! Note block powering an observer. You will see this in every single door going forward. I'm not even joking. This is literally the most common way I power anything anymore. Very simple door. And, yeah. I was happy with this for like a long time. Except I hated the fact that A, I used this circuit, which I hate now. And also because I used a hard power sticky piston. Why did I make it like this? Why isn't this a 1-tick? And so I hated this door because it used a lever input instead of a note block input like every single other piston door. But that arc isn't going to be concluded until we get over to that area, which is the most recent doors I've made, so we gotta wait a little bit. So, yeah, next up on the list is probably going to be my 3x4 I made. So the next door I made was the 3x4, which looks like this. You can see these are all very, very quick. So how this one walks is I copy and pasted the 3x3, except I added an extra piston, and then I copy and pasted this bottom circuit and I put it on the top. And 3x4. It wasn't that simple, but it's basically how I did this. And I guess now I can get into what that little that gray circuit down there is, because it's important for this door. So, this little gray circuit right here is something I'd like to call a decider circuit. And a decider circuit, basically, depending on if you're activating the door for closing or if you're activating it for opening, it can have different outputs depending on which one. So, my thing with this is I had a very hard decision of how I was supposed to make something do something differently depending on if it was opening or closing. Because if a door is opening, it needs a certain sequence, but if a door is closing, it needs a completely different sequence. But the problem is, not every door can be solved by just moving a block out of the way of a double piston extender. So I have to invent a new thing. I haven't really seen this before at all. I'm sure many Redstoners use something similar to this, but this is the only time I've seen it. At least, I'm not claiming I made this, but you know, I mean I technically did, but whatever. But basically this is a decider circuit, and what it does is it does exactly what I described. So basically it's just 2 redstone dust, 2 repeaters, and then there's a block that gets moved by a piston. And if this input gets triggered, then it triggers this redstone dust, which powers this block, which, since this is a 1-tick pulse, Bedrock Edition, then it spits out the block, Bedrock Edition, and also powers this lamp just to show you a visual indicator. And then if you power it again, now it powers this repeater and this repeater, but now the block is over here, so now it powers this lamp, because then it goes through this block, powers this redstone, goes through this repeater, goes into this block, which again, 1 tick spits out the block, Bedrock Edition. So the sticky piston now moves back, and then this repeater then goes into this block, which powers the lamp. So, yeah. Very useful circuit. I love this thing so much. It is so incredibly useful, and any complicated door I do will basically have one of those in some form, and right up here there is a form of it. So this sticky piston right here moves this gray wool block, which has to be in a very specific orientation depending on opening and closing. Right now it is in... Right now this would be the position to open, but right now it's already opened, which means it's going to go in closing position. And basically the reason I needed this is because I use a create adjustable repeater to keep it 1 wide. That's the only reason I used this. And basically it powers this, it does all this, powers this. This gets powered, and after 15 ticks of delay, which is enough time for all of this to fire, and you can see it does this last pulse for the double piston extender. Without this line, this is the nice thing about designing your own doors. You get to troubleshoot them because you know how they walk. Whatever. And yes, I made all of these myself. Some of these have double piston extender designs from the internet because I need a compact double piston extender. I know how they walk, I just needed a compactor, like one. So, yeah. Basically what this does is it powers this note block. Note block as an input that triggers an observer. And then it goes into this observer that powers this dust, which makes this block retract, and it goes up. And then on opening, this block is now here, which means that this repeater can actually finish the pulse. But this block gets moved out of the way on closing, which means that this doesn't fire. If it did fire, that would be your closed door. I'm going to be honest, that is not fully closed. This is fully closed. So to fix that problem, you have to move the block out of the way. But the only problem with this door is that it uses a create component. That is the only problem with this door. Otherwise, it is pretty good. Except I would, again, power this differently. Although, this is one wide and like one tall, so I guess that's an advantage over redstone dust. Because redstone dust would be too wide. Too tall here. But, yeah, that's how this works. And then I made this 4x4, which originally was completely different circuitry, but I've revitalized it, kind of. I've revamped this door, and that works like this. And, pretty proud of this door. You can see this little layout right here I use a lot. This is a double piston extender right here. And then basically this does most of the double piston extender. But then you need this extra circuitry over here with a decider circuit right here to power the other stuff. And you can see that I have a little hot wire thing right here to spit out its block right here. Does that first, then it moves these pistons and it closes. So basically all of these doors use this kind of layout, but just flipped in different orientations and wired slightly differently. I don't know why I made this completely glass, but this little circuit right here, which I'll show off over here, again, you'll notice this a lot. I have duplicated circuits all over the place because of like reference images, because I used to screenshot these to build them elsewhere, but yeah. This right here will keep track of this red wool, so it goes up and it double extends, goes down. Now this circuit is actually inspired by this circuit. Go check out the iCard for that video, but this is kind of my modern version of that circuit. So here's the original circuit, and here's the new one. So yeah, you can see this one's way more compact, way smaller, way faster, way better, and it uses 1 ticks. So it's way better. See, it spits out this block right there, which is extremely useful for this door, because it needs to spit out its block in order for it to walk. Yeah, there's no other possible way I could get this block up there like that. So yeah, this is basically what the zero-tick community would call a fold. So this is kind of like a folded triple piston extender, because you can see that the block travels 1, 2, 3 blocks, except it only uses a double piston extender. So to do that, I retract this block out of the way, which means that now I have this block here, which means I can just pulse this, and now it goes to here. And you see that's exactly what it does. So it's a double piston extender, and then you move the last piston, and then you put this over here, which is very useful. So yeah, this is used as a nice little entrance, because basically you can have a flooring right here. You can power this, you can stand over here, and now you're down a layer. And it's 2 blocks, so you can actually walk, because if you use a double piston extender only, you wouldn't be able to get enough height, so you could actually walk anywhere. So yeah, that's why that circuit was made. This was actually made for a different world of mine, but you know, it's just kind of chilling here. I guess we'll cover this real quick. This one's incredibly simple. Pretty self-explanatory right here. You'll never guess how this one gets inputted. What's this? A monostable circuit, which is just a circuit that produces a 1-tick pulse. Circuit that produces a 1-tick pulse, you say? Why does that sound familiar? Yeah, and then this just goes over here. This yellow circuit's all input, and this moves the block. This triggers these singles, and then this little double right here, and then there's this green circuit that heads up, and then it goes over here. You see that too. I organize circuits with wool color as every other Redstone anything does, because it's just so nice being able to tell what is what in a circuit. It's so nice. That's why actual computer parts have like silk screen labels on them so you can tell what is going on. So, yeah. This right here is my magnum opus. I need to do a V2 of this. I should design one on stream. I just need to compact this, really, because there's a lot of monostable circuit shenanigans. There's a lot of stuff up here that I could just shave off. If I could just shave off a couple layers from here, like at least 1 or 2, and then compact this down to only 2 layers above in the ceiling. I should put more stuff on the floor. That would be way better. I don't know why I didn't do that. Whatever. Yeah. So my design criteria for this door was it had to not go and use the floor and ceiling to retract the blocks. Because basically if you have a walkway, you can see from that hallway design from over here, you can see that it's spruce planks on the bottom and then deep slate walls. And if you have deep slate walls coming out like right here, and this is your piston door, then when it retracts it has like blocks in the ceiling, and that just looks ugly, and I didn't really like that. So I made this door, which solves that problem, because now it retracts it only into the wall. So yeah, very fun. A nice challenge. I had to build a little supercomputer over here to calculate everything, you know. It's actually very simple. It is just just a 4 high double piston extender. And then I can have 2 inputs. So you can have this one, which just pushes all these blocks out, because that was necessary for the door. And if you watch its closing, you can see that happen. Right there. See it powered this right here. And then for normal operation, you would use this, which I actually realized I could speed this up significantly, so I did. And what's kind of cool is if you change these repeaters to 1-tick repeaters, actually spits out the block, which is really cool. So yeah, because both types of these could be useful. I love this door though, it's so nice. This other circuitry over here used to be extremely bulky and very big. I forget what it even looks like because I've improved it by so much. And yeah, I recently changed this input to be a note block instead of a piston pushing a block, because I wanted to improve it a little more. Yeah, incredibly good door. So, yeah, I'm really proud of this because it took me a while to figure out how to do all this circuitry. Because I needed this to be flush, but I also needed it to be 4 high, which was really hard to do. And then this is just block storage. And it has this row of pistons right here, which push out, and then this pushes, and then this does this. So this is kind of like an evolution of this, because now it's doing more than just that, because now it has to pull blocks, then store them, then pull more blocks. So this is incredibly complicated block storage right here, because it has to store, you know, 8 blocks somewhere. So it has to put them right here, and you can see they end up inside of the walls, and it's really cool. So yeah, it's very fun to watch too. In the corner right there, how it kind of like scoops up the blocks. It's really cool how it does it. So yeah, and you can see at the top right here, it uses one of the first iterations of the decider circuit. You can see right here. So this pulse goes into this, which is the double piston extender. So you can see that it kind of decides whether or not to use that double piston extender. And again, you notice how it's the vertical downwards vertical double piston extender. Again, because it's very annoying to do. And you guys should have seen this by now. This is my 5x4 heart door I made for Valentine's Day. If we press the button. I won't really go too much detail into this one because I already made a video on it, but go watch that video as well in the iCard. One of the main highlights is that it uses a more modern decider circuit. You can see it uses this to take an input down here instead, which is different. Also, I'd probably wire this slightly differently now, somewhere more like this. Yeah, and you can also see it uses these circuits, which I won't use anymore. This middle section was incredibly annoying to get walking correct, but eventually I got it right. But basically, this double piston extender, because I don't have a decider circuit on this one, it actually fires out and it spits out the blocks all the way down here. And it would look like this when closed, which doesn't look good. But luckily I have pistons at the bottom that then push everything back up and into place. So that looks very nice now. And you can see that on the sequence. You can see it push down and then back up, which I really like about this door. It makes it really unique and very cool. Yeah, I did a whole video on that, you can check that out. This is my 5x4, which is probably the biggest piston door I'm ever going to make, because 5x5s are stupid because they use triple piston extenders and they're dumb. So it's so dumb. So basically how this one works is I'm not even going to bother trying to explain it, because look at this circuitry. Look at this screenshot. Tell me what is happening in this door. Oh, what was that? You can't tell me? Exactly. But basically, there's this block storage circuit in the corner, and it has to store blocks in a really weird way. Like, look at this. Okay, there's this block right here, gets retracted. What makes this door pretty unique is it uses horizontal double piston extender like block storage circuits, if we can even see them. The second piston is somewhere. I don't know where the piston is. The piston is very dumb. I don't think we should even like communicate with the piston. I don't know. We're just gonna ignore the piston. Shut up, piston. Stupid piston. Whatever. This is my base entrance for my Minecraft Modded Survival series. It wasn't originally made for that. It was made for that same world I made that circuit for. This door is unique because it uses one-tick flush trapdoor setups, which are really unique in how they work. This door is notable also because it now uses the modern decider circuit right here. You can see I take inputs from all of this, and it's extremely complicated. This door right here is unfinished. It's meant to be more of a modern 3x4 vault door with a decider circuit instead, but I can't for the life of me wire this thing, so I'm just gonna leave this over here. I have this one tickable flush trapdoor setup. So you can see how it actually works is it moves these pistons and it has to move this piston. And then it has to move this piston back and then this piston back, which means that this piston needs more delay, which is hard to do with one ticks. But I figured it out. And you can see it works really well. This contraption is the one I made next. This thing is a very cool concept I came up with. So basically, it's that same 3x4 hallway design. This is it more in context. And it opens up into the above hallway, so this ceiling is actually the floor of the next hallway. This door retracts everything. Hey, look, a staircase. So I wanted to make a hidden staircase, and my design requirement for this was I wasn't allowed to use the wall for the staircase blocks, because I could make this incredibly easily with just a row of pistons and shift all these wall blocks, but that's incredibly boring, so I decided to do this. Because I knew that I had a 4-high wall, which means that if I have 2 double piston extenders, I can have, you know, this piston is on a double piston extender, this is on a single, this is on a double, this is on a single. Single, double, double, single. And then I have some extra blocks that I have to remove that I didn't account for at first, but I did account for. And another notable thing is that it has this little circuit that has to move the pistons out of the way, so they can actually retract, and also they can't, you know, do other things. What's nice about this door also is that it's another one that doesn't have a decider circuit. All of the logic is reversible. Very cool circuit. I love this thing. It's very cool. And it's very compact. Like, it may look a little big, but that's because of this black circuit, which is just the input. This is why I used the redstone links, because this is a little big. The redstone links would just compact that down. But for pure redstone, like, that's... For an entrance that complicated, that's pretty tiny. This is my attempt at making a modern version of this. Modern being 1 tick instead of hard power like that one. Whatever. You may be thinking, oh Tyler, what's wrong with this door? Oh, that's too fast and I can't get through it. It's a funnel door. Yeah, this is why I didn't like this door. It uses my own double piston extender design, and I mean, it's a good double piston extender design, but the only problem is it doesn't have enough space. Like, you have to put pistons here, but there's no, you can't, yeah. So that's a problem. So I fixed that problem, and now I made this beautiful thing, which I showed off on stream. And this uses, again, my own double piston extender design, but it's actually even easier than the previous one, so it's even better than the previous one. And it's not a funnel door. It is a vault door. One thing I didn't mention also is that if you double click the note block, it does a donut door, and then a door that has a square in the middle. If you double tap it again, it will auto-correct itself. So my doors kind of have like inbuilt troubleshooting measures for spamming. Even if you spam the door, it will be perfectly fine. I think the last thing that I need to show off is the modern set of doors that I made over here, which are the most recent builds, well, besides that thing. This is my 3x3, 3x4, and 4x4. These are just modern versions of the other stuff, taking all that I've learned from doing other doors and other projects into doors that I have previously done, but now I can do way better because now I'm better at redstone. So you can see that this uses a redstone dust line into a note block instead of the other design. It also uses this, and you can see it walks exactly the same way as the older doors, where it spits it out and pushes it up. It's just, I don't think it's any faster. Actually, it is faster because now it doesn't have input lag. So it is faster, I think, by like 2 ticks or something, I don't know. 2 game ticks, so like 1 redstone tick, I don't know. How fast is a freaking... How fast is a piston retract? I don't know. I don't know if this is any faster, but it's simpler, so, you know, less cost effective, or more cost effective because it doesn't have sticky pistons up here. So this is better. There's this very weird looking complicated thing, which the decider circuit is broken on this, which is interesting. Okay then. See why that decider circuit's very important? Because now if I put it in opposite position, see, now it does that issue I described earlier. And then it breaks really bad. You know, that's not supposed to happen. Anyways. You can see, even if you fix it, it's still bad because that decider circuit is bad. But if I fix the decider circuit, now it works. So this is just the modern 3x4. You see that the bottom layout is literally the exact same thing as the 3x3, just slightly different because it's now 4 tall instead of 3 tall. There's some slab action in here to prevent quasi-connectivity. This upper circuit used to be more complicated, but I simplified it to be even less complicated, and now it's very easy to build. And you can see that instead of using a create mod adjustable repeater, I've just used 10 10 repeaters right here. And it works just as well. So, yeah. Ta-da! So it's the 3x4. And then, finally, I made the 4x4 right here, which is just the modern 4x4. My goal with this one was to just make it smaller and less complicated and less annoying and prettier to look at. Like, this objectively looks way nicer than that other 4x4 over there because of that snaking redstone line. That snaking redstone does make it in sync, which is nicer looking, but the redstone is ugly, and I want the redstone to look kind of pretty, so, you know, it's not that bad. Actually, there is one more circuit I made some point in time. It's this tiny little hidden staircase entrance. I didn't show this one off. This one's tiny though. It only has like a few components. Very simple. And works incredibly well as a little hidden entrance. But that's about it for the video. So, Telinator, signing out. Bye. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified when I build an incredibly complicated 6x4 piston door. Well, that's not a piston door. That's a Steve inside head. Oh, Jesus. Okay, then.